it almost cost me a lot just because I didn't want to grow up and acknowledge the faults and the issues that I had. It almost cost me what I have today. And
we rise to the top, can't stop this flow. In the heart of the jungle, we're ready, let's go. In the heart of the jungle, we're ready.
Welcome everybody to another episode of the Round Table. What's going on, man?
not much, man. A late night.
So
So
get my wisdom teeth pulled tomorrow. I thought I'd, stick with the consistency we talked about.
that's what we got to do, man.
Get in here and record something. After our interview last week, this whole week I've just been thinking about everything we talked about, the tips, everything.
Okay.
I mean, that interview was,
It's great.
it was pretty awesome.
You guys ready? Get tuned in because it's gonna be a good one. So this will
they'll-
drop
I was
after
gonna
the
say,
fact.
they'll already hear it.
But if you're listening to this thing, you haven't listened to that one, go back to that one.
So there was a part he was talking about, and I don't think it was even on the podcast. I think he was just talking to us, talking about getting deeper into the conversation.
Yes.
So I want to go back and start with you here.
Okay.
So I got two scenarios we can talk about, but one really I want to hit home on a little bit more. So you're going to have to really dig deep into your thoughts and how you might have felt.
Okay.
So we've talked a lot about how Taylor came to you and said, I'm not doing this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to go back. So remind me how long you guys have been dating at this time? Because
So
you'd already moved in with her, everything.
we moved pretty quick. So we got our apartment within a year. So we were there for maybe 2 years in, maybe,
2 years in.
if not a little, like a year and a half to 2 years.
And so this whole time from 1 to 2 years, I mean, the story of the first date's hilarious to me. Or, well, almost first date.
yeah,
whatever,
the first
second
night we
date,
met. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
That story is always hilarious to me. But so during those 2 years, how much drinking were you doing?
A lot. So, well, let me back up. So, really, not that much. It was by that point I wasn't drinking as often. And maybe she might have a different viewpoint. I would say it was more of the amount that I drank when I drank.
Okay.
So it wasn't like one. It was a bottle. It was I'm gone. Like there was no in between. It was 0 or 100. So it was more of like just the amount that I actually drank versus the it wasn't like I would come home and have a beer. There was a little period of time where I was drinking pretty much every single night after work, but I wouldn't drink a whole bottle or anything. I'd drink like a glass or two. But then when it got to like the weekends or I went out and I did something with my friends, it was like full blown, I'm blacked out type of deal.
So do you think you were doing that to hide issues?
Of course. So backing up, so there was a little bit of an in between phase. So we started dating. I just, not recently, but I'd been out of a relationship and, I was partying a lot before I met her and, just living my life. And then we got together and, it was quite the change, right? You got to slow down. You don't, and you don't drink as much, Taylor's not a big drinker anyway. So we would find different things to do, but I was still had the association that I had when I was single. And so I'd go out here and there, whatever. And, what I ended up doing is we were having a lot of issues in our relationship already. It's kind of like, this is why I've hit on it before, is where sometimes you don't even know. You say you don't know what happened. You just woke up one day and they're like, I want a divorce. And you're like, what the hell? Like, I thought everything was cool. Well, it was because I was shoving everything to the wayside, right? I wasn't actually acknowledging that anything was an issue, which is our communication, the drinking, the lack of communication in our relationship and lack of intimacy in that retrospect where I wasn't giving her the quality time that she needed. And so I went through that period and we were kind of, I was drinking, I would drink to get away or whatever. And then, I'll share it, but definitely something that when we get her on her own episode that we talk about if she's open to it. But Um, she was pregnant, and I think it was actually, it was around when you guys got pregnant, I think, because we always compare that whenever
I think so.
Macy would and our baby would have been around the same age, close, but within definitely within a year. And so we got pregnant, and when she had a miscarriage, and then we tried again, and some other stuff happened. And so during that whole period, she was going obviously her emotions are way down. She's going through depression. It's a shitty situation physically and mentally to go through. And so
It's very hard on the man side too.
yeah, well, that
Like,
was the thing is I
'cause
didn't
we don't know how to.
I didn't know how to fix it.
Connect. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And which
Yep.
doesn't need fixing. It needed me just to be as a supportive figure to her, to make her known that, look, I'm here for you, more of trying to fix the situation. And so I was so immature and not in the right mindset at the time, where I just wanted to really run. I wanted to just get away from the situation. So I started drinking a lot. And that's when things kind of went down a shitty road. And it embarrasses me to even say it, because I even to this day, I can't believe that I did it. And I apologize to her consistently. And there's a song that I'll have to send it to you, and once you hear the story, you'll be like, it totally makes sense. But so it happened twice, right? So she had two miscarriages for two different occasions. One of them, I left when she had taken the pill, because they had to take a pill to help it pass. I left her home alone. I didn't stay. I went to one of my buddy's house. We got freaking drunk. And that was me running away from the situation. I didn't want to deal with the emotions. I didn't know how to deal with the emotions. I didn't know how to deal with her emotions. And looking back, I'm like, that's such a cowardly thing to do, because one, she's physically going through something, and she's dealing with it alone in a house by herself, with the pain, with the emotions, and yet I'm just out, just drinking, just getting drunk. And that was one of the situations. And it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to think that I was that person in that moment. And to this day, I'm like, I can't believe, I can't wrap myself that I even went there and just wasn't even there for her, physically or emotionally. And then the other time was,
Hold on, let me stop you real quick.
Yeah.
So how far in between her saying I'm not doing this anymore and that was it? Would you guess? I know this is quite a long time ago, but I just want to give people a little bit more, give them a little bit of a timeline.
I would say within 6 months.
Within 6 months.
For sure. It was well within 6 months.
Okay. I'm just trying to give them a little bit more of a timeline so we can kind of
it was
very
very close to each other, which is why it was such a major talking point in our relationship during that period of time. And I don't think anybody knew about it. We didn't really talk about stuff like that. I know I didn't, and maybe she told people, but I didn't. Something that I wasn't proud of, so I wasn't like, I think people knew that she'd had a miscarriage or whatever, but I don't know that if they knew the extent of the situation between our relationship.
I think that's something that honestly you don't like, as somebody that's part of the family involved in all of this. I think that's something that doesn't get told to the family.
Yeah.
She may have had some close friends that she talked to. As far as I know, I mean, I think I only knew about the one now that you say that.
Yeah.
But I would say most likely no, the family didn't. I mean, maybe her mom and dad, because she was pretty close to
for
them.
sure.
But I think as far as the extended, my side, my family and all that, I would say we didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that, which is, I mean, even if people did, people will know now, but at the same time, I think that was one of the biggest breakthroughs too, was acknowledging that I was a piece of shit during that period of my time in my life, in that period of our relationship, that helped me grow past it. Because if I wasn't willing to accept that I was at fault for just abandoning her, and I'm not going to say in a sense, because it was abandoning her, I would have been that same person. I could have just left the relationship, or we could have ended, and then I would have been that person forever, or until I woke up and said, I need to grow the hell up. But yeah, I would say timeline wise, it was about within 6 months. And then the second one was where it's kind of the same situation. I ended up, I was still dealing with everything that had happened. I never we never had a conversation. I never told her like, hey, I'm feeling sad. Like, I know you're affected, but I'm affected. Like, I never had that conversation with her. We never sat down and just talked through it. Um, and so we went through, a few months, and um, she ended up, like I said, having another miscarriage, and then I ended up going out to some concert, and I blacked out. And the next thing I know is I'm getting waken up by my father-in-law and my brother-in-law at my friend's house. They'd come pick me up, and I don't even remember how I ended up at his house. I don't remember what happened. I just remember waking up on the couch and they're sitting right there with me. And so that was kind of the situation that kind of sparked the actual conversation, right? Because it happened. I think that wasn't the first. That was the first time it happened, and that's that's the conversation that Gamma remembers to this day. That she's like, she overheard us, arguing because I was, faded or whatever, and Taylor was scared. The biggest thing, the conversation for her was like I thought you were dead, and she's dealt with that part in her life, a lot of death, and so she was, the way she explains, like, I'm so in love with you that the fear of losing you was like driving me crazy. So you're not responding to me. I know you're drunk. I know that and I know Gamma's going to watch this one day or whatever. And I don't do this anymore, but I was, a habitual, like, drinking and driving type of person. So I would, I would drive home, even though I knew I was impaired. Like, I really wouldn't care. And so, she knew that about me. I'd done it in the past, and she was like, I thought you died, and she was freaking out. So it's coming from a very loving place. When we were having that conversation, I totally got the sense that, she really loved me. She just didn't want me to lose me. And so then the second time, I honestly don't even remember. I think I just, it's not, I say I think I'd went out, and then I like came back super late, like 3 or 4 in the morning or something like that. And the same deal, like I wasn't responding to her text. And I think that just rooted from my, immaturity of, not being able to say, hey, I'm still hanging out. You know what I mean? I just didn't even want to deal with the situation, because in my past relationship, I couldn't even, it would just always turn into an argument where Taylor was like, look, all you got to do is text me and say, hey, I'm alive. I'm chilling. I'm just keeping you up to date. Just let me know that you're cool. And if you need me to come get you, I'll come get you. That's all she ever wanted. But I was so immature in my growth part in that phase that I couldn't even do that. I couldn't even man up to say, hey, I'm still with my homies. Like, I'm going to be here a little bit longer. I would just ignore her. Like, that was my way of dealing with the situation, is ignore or walk away and not even deal with it. And that was a lot of our relationship to begin with. That was a lot of our issues, is that I was unwilling to open up or have a conversation or open the communication gates with her. And so, it created a lot of drift, a lot of drama in our lives that really didn't need to happen. If it would have been, it would have been easier for me to just communicate, hey, this is what's going on.
But on the flip side of that, you've learned a lot.
Oh, for sure.
And your communication's a lot better from it.
It's better.
At least as far as
it's better.
As far
it's
as
not
the
perfect,
outside looking.
Yeah, it's not perfect, but it's better. Yeah. It's 100 times better than it was back. Yes.
I don't know that communication can be perfect. I mean, I think at the root of it, we all fear how the other person's going to react. Just period. Because we don't know. We can assume so many things, but I mean, you just explained that you feared how she was going to be, or you were fearing your past was going to come back to haunt you, instead of just being like, hey, I'm good. We're just hanging out. We're watching a show. We're just still chilling. We're just playing beer pong, whatever. Yeah. I've done it multiple times too, where it's like just a simple text or call, like, hey, I'm good, I'm still alive, we're just chilling, we're just playing, could turn into, okay, have a great time, I just want to make sure you're okay, versus, I mean, like I said, I've done it where I've just been like, same thing, kind of just don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, I was just super immature. That's really what comes down to it. Like, I was immature in the sense that I couldn't own up to what I was doing, and I was afraid of the response. And I don't know, I think it just maybe stemmed from past shit, but it's still not an excuse to just say, at some point you got to grow up and just say, hey, like, I need to be a better communicator. Whatever that is, whatever that looks like in your relationship or your friendships, and we've had these conversations in our friendship as well. And But I think, yeah, I think in that time in my life, I just needed to grow up a lot. And Taylor was the person that gave me this space in a loving manner, but also gave me really an ultimatum. Like, hey, you're either going to grow up or you're going to lose somebody that really loves you. And I was like, oh shit, I don't want to lose that.
So,
So
so going back to that, so you were out that one night late. I'm assuming that the conversation that flipped everything was either that next morning.
the next morning,
So you were still hungover as shit.
yeah,
But okay, so going back to that, where were your emotions in that? Were you angry at her? Were you kind of expecting something to happen? Like a conversation? I know that this is a long time ago.
no,
'Cause this
it's a long time ago, but it's something that's ingrained in my mind. I felt I felt like she. So ultimately, what I was trying to do, and I didn't find this out till after the fact, till years later, till I started really digging in. I was just trying to push her away. I was afraid to have a loving relationship, and I was afraid of losing somebody that loved me. So I'd rather push you away before you got too close.
yeah.
That was ultimately what I was doing. And so that was a lot with a lot of my relationships. I was always the playboy, whatever. I didn't really hold long relationships. That just wasn't me. Like I just, I didn't like it and, whatever. But, just really getting with her, she made me see that, that she really cared for me. And so when I started seeing that, was doing things, to kind of, keep that barrier. But then something was different when with her. Like the way she explained it, the way her reactions were, like when she told me, hey, like I thought you were gonna die, like I thought you were dead. It wasn't even like there wasn't even a conversation like, were you cheating? Were you, what were you doing? Like there was none of that. It was just like I was like terrified. I thought you were gone, and she's like breaking down, and I just remember the feeling like, damn, I'm fucking up. Like, what am I doing? Like, why am I being this way? Like, I don't even like drinking that much. Like, it's fun, I guess, in the moment, but it's not like, I'm not, it just clicked. It just like, it was like over emotional feeling of like, I knew she was going to say something. I didn't know exactly what. I thought she was gonna be like, I can't be with you anymore. That's what I thought was going to happen.
So that morning when you
Oh,
woke up,
I thought we were done.
You could tell a look
I
on her
thought we
face told you something was up.
I thought we were done. I thought she was, and I was totally prepared for that. I was totally like, it's gonna suck, but like, and ultimately, like subconsciously, like I got what I wanted. I pushed somebody away, and then I can blame it on her, like, oh, whatever, we just didn't work out. When realistically, it was my own issue that I was just lacked accountability and lacked communication and lacked, the ability to be able to accept love like fully like that. And so when she gave me the ultimatum, like, look, I'm just not going to do this again. I'm not going to put myself through this pain in a relationship. I felt so loved in the moment. And it's kind of weird to say, right? Because somebody's telling you like, if you don't change, I'm not going to stick around. But that to me, I was like, oh shit, she actually loves me. Like I really thought that. I was like, man, this girl really loves me.
So going back a little, when you woke up and you saw and you knew something was coming, did you go into it with anger? Did you go into it just assuming things were
No,
over? You were just like,
I was
it's
just like,
whatever.
Yeah, it's whatever.
At that time, you didn't feel a whole lot. You were still, I guess the way I am understanding, you were still probably feeling pretty numb from the night before.
Oh yeah,
out drinking late and stuff.
And fortunately and unfortunately, and this is a habit, or not a habit, this is a characteristic that I carry with me today, is I can lose somebody and be okay. And it's not a good quality to have. It's just, I think it's because I've lost so many people in my life that I'm just okay. Sometimes just, I'm accepting the fact that things just like don't always work out, and people leave, whether they pass away or relationship doesn't work. I've accepted that a long time ago. And so during that phase, I was totally like, just like, okay, like I was like, whatever happens, like I'll be cool. Now I don't think that way anymore about her, that it would totally crush me. But in that's what, like, that was a turning point for me. But yeah, I went into that that conversation, like, whatever happens, happens. If she leaves, she leaves, and then I'll figure it out. But then once she had said, like within seconds, she'd said what she'd said, my whole mindset just like all these emotions raged through my body, and I was like, holy fuck. Like, I love this girl.
What were some of those emotions? Like happiness, sadness, like
I think
try to explain a
I
little
think
bit
sadness. Sadness, most of it was sadness because I I know what hurt felt like, and I could feel the pain in her voice and in her eyes. So I felt that all that pain that she was, just the tears, the cracking in her voice, the way that she was, moving. She was still very strong in the moment. Like, her energy was super strong, super firm, but it felt so bad. I felt so sad that I hurt her so much with something that was just immature at the time, and during, right when she'd said those words, like, yeah, it just felt sad, and I was ashamed. I was honestly disappointed in myself that I turned into that person, that I was just willing to just fuck off and not really care about anybody else. And so, yeah, it was a range of emotions, but for sure sadness was at the top of the list, just because I knew I'd hurt her so much. And even to this day, I still think about it. And I still talk about it. We don't talk about it as much because it's stuff from the past, but like I said, there's certain songs that I listen to, or certain things that I see, or that we talk about, that bring up that emotion or that thought, and I'm like, fuck, man, I can't believe I did some of that shit. You know what I mean? I'm such an idiot. And
Do you
so,
ever communicate that to her at
oh
that
yeah,
time?
yeah. No, during that time, like I said, the communication part didn't come till years later.
Well, I mean, even now, like if
Oh
the song
yeah.
were to come on like tomorrow in the car with her, or would you do you ever be like, man, I really am sorry for that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Specifically the miscarriage one where she'd taken the pill and I left. We talked about that. I brought that up, and I was like, you know what? I was thinking that day, and I was like, I can't believe I did that to you. Not the other day, but a while ago. I was like, I can't believe I ever did that to you. Like, I was such a piece of shit. I was like, I can't believe you stayed. And I was like, you're an eight. That's why I think, and there's so much more to it, but just from a drinking standpoint, like, I was like, you're one of the strongest people I know. Just not even the relationship that we've been through, but just the shit that she's been through in general. But yeah, I've told her, I've told her before, like, hey, like, I can't believe I did this. I can't believe that you love me so much that you're willing to have that conversation. I can't believe, I'll tell her, because for me, it's healing to talk through those things now after the fact. But I think it also helps her be more aware that I am aware that I was in a pretty dark place at the time.
I think it comes to the accountability thing. If
Yeah.
you would have, I mean, at any point, and this is way outsider looking in, at any point, if you were to just be like, meh, instead of being like, because I imagine that day was a very emotional, but like rough, but in a good way, because you were dealing with everything on your side. She was dealing with her side, and she was trying to really decide, okay, is this man really going to change for me? And you were sitting there trying to decide just the same. Am I really going to, is this woman worth everything? Like, is it worth going out to lose what I have here?
Yeah.
So I imagine that day was quite an emotional day overall.
It was definitely emotional. And to your point, when she said that, that day I told her, I'm done. I won't ever do that to you again. And I meant that. I meant that to my core. I walked
That
away.
was,
You know how people have that, people talk about, like, I'm sure Soph can talk about that that day when the car,
mm-hmm.
when she said that, she truly believed it. She, like, knew that she would never do that again. When I said that, I knew that I would never do that again. I just knew. Like, I rather die like a different way, but I rather die than do that, to put that pain again on her again.
So how long do you think before you had another drink?
Fuck. It was years. At least 2, I would say. At least. Like, I'm talking about, I mean, I'm trying to think, maybe I had a beer. I don't even think I did. I think it was like 2 years. I think it was like 2 years where I just completely just didn't even drink. And she was just like, what the fuck? Like, I said, we've talked, like you mentioned, right? Do you guys talk about that? Yeah, we've talked about that. And she told me, like, I didn't think you were going to do it. I didn't think you were going to change. And she praises me, she's like, I can't believe, you're so strong and the way that you were just able to quit drinking and da-da-da-da. I was like, I had no faith that you were going to be able to do that. To be honest, like, I didn't think you were going to be able to do it. Like, not a lot of people just can't do that. They're just not willing to, right? And she's...
I would say can't's not the right word. Willing to.
Willing,
Willing to is the right word, because, I mean, we know people, we've seen people, we are some of those people that if it's that important, you will change. And that's something that a lot of people, I mean, I think that's a very key point a lot of people miss, is that if it's important to you, you can make it work.
Yeah, you're willing to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
And I was willing to do the work, and it didn't feel like work. It was just like she was so much more important than those things. And she was much more important than me putting my ego in place of her emotions and her love. So I had to drop my ego, I had to, improve my communication and improve my accountability to the things that I do, hold myself accountable. And so there was a lot of dark moments in that, and it was good because we, through those situations, we definitely became stronger. But it also, you use a lot of trust in a relationship when you do those types of things, right? When somebody tells you, hey, don't do this, hey, you don't do that, and then you do it, two other times, and then you add a traumatic situation like a miscarriage and being left alone and abandoned, that just adds to the situation. So it took a long time. It's still in our relationship in parts and bits today, but we worked through those things, and and I fully accept everything that, I don't ever, if she ever brings it up or we talk about it, I agree. Like, I'm like, you're right. Like, I can't believe that I even did that. I can't believe that, I take full accountability for the whole thing. Cause it was me. There was no other situation where she had done anything different other than, just be who she was. And I just needed to own up to being a fucking man and not run away from my situation. So,
I mean, I think that's been the biggest change, period. I mean, anybody that I've known that's held themselves a little more accountable for their actions, things definitely change.
They do. And I think it goes to show, like, if there's anything that I could say is that and people have said it before, right? If you find something that you're willing to fight for, you fight for it.
Mm-hmm.
If there's something strong enough that you're willing to put in front of you, that you're going to go through a wall or go through whatever, you're going to do it, right? If your kids are in a fucking burning house, you're going to die trying to get them out. Like, that's just the reality behind it. And that was the reality with the situation. I was willing to die before I broke her heart again because of my immaturity or a lack of growing up in the situation. There was no way I was going to let her down. There was no way.
So I imagine this was like a Friday, Saturday that this happened somewhere.
It was
Most
it
likely,
was a Saturday.
Most likely, just based off of
Saturday morning. I could tell you where I was sitting. I could tell you what I was
parties,
wearing.
Everything.
Yeah.
So right. So did that following weekend or upcoming weekends, did any of your friends hit you up? Hey man, we're going to the club. We're doing this.
I wouldn't say the following week because everybody kind of knew, like, my homies, kind of what happened, as far as like, oh yeah, like, but me coming home late and shit like that, and you tell them like, oh yeah, bro, like, it turned into some big shit. They already kind of knew, right?
So you were open with them a little bit,
Yeah.
like, hey man, like, shit hit the fan, like.
Oh yeah, I told them straight up, I'm not gonna drink no more. Don't text me, don't call me. I'm not coming out. And that was just, like I said, I like, and I wasn't rude about it. I was just like, I'm just not doing that. Like, I think I have to focus on my relationship, and that's just part of being a man. Like, sometimes you got to prioritize your family, your wife. She wasn't my wife at the time, but she was mothering my child. She was mothering her stepchild that she had no responsibility to it other than the fact that we're dating and living together. But, I was unwilling to, so I was just like, look, man, like, yeah, I'm not going out no more. I'm not doing this. So hit me up. You're still my homies, but I'm not doing it.
Was that hard for you to do?
Nah, man. Like I said, I mean, I'm easy to cut shit off. If
at that point it was
they
easy.
they were cool. I mean, they took it a certain way, but it is what it is. Like, I think a real friend's gonna respect you for the decisions you're making if it's for the best of you, right? If I had cirrhosis and they were like, oh, come on, come out and drink, and I'm like, no, bro, I'm sick, man. I'm not supposed to be drinking, and they can't respect that fact. Like, then that's not a real homie. So, the real friends were like, yeah, bro, I get it. It's cool. I get it. Do you, and then you kind of fall out with some of them and whatever. You kind of grow out. You kind of grow out of those situations, but yeah, like I didn't get any flack or nobody said anything about it. At least to me, that's just I was just like, yeah, I'm not doing this for a while. So like I said, it was probably like two. I mean, I can't remember the last time I went out with my friends. I think it was well after that, but I'd also proven myself, a million times over. And Taylor's like, yeah, like go, like you're cool. And she's like, I trust you. You don't, and yeah, like I drove that night and I drove back. I ended up getting pulled over, but that was another situation where she was like freaking out. But it wasn't even like I had drank like a beer over like a 4-hour period, and my friends were all faded. And I was like, yeah, bro, I'm gonna go. It's 10 o'clock. Yeah, I'm gonna go home now. And then I ended up getting pulled over because I'm in the Challenger, and yeah, text Taylor. I was like, hey, I'm on my way home. I'll be there in a minute. She's like, you need me? I was like, no, I drank like 3 hours ago, one beer. I'm good. I wasn't planning on drinking anything. And I think that might have been like one of the first times I went out, like 3 years. It might have been longer than 2 years, but it was like 3 years. And yeah, I ended up getting pulled over. And she was like texting and calling me, but my phone's in my car. And I went through this whole bullshit. They were trying to fucking get me caught up. And long story short, they let me go like 45 minutes later, and I get in the car and just call after call after call, text. And I called right back. Babe, I'm like, this is before we were sharing our locations. I was like, babe, I'm like down the street, like I just got pulled over. She's like, what happened? I'm like, no, like I don't know, they were just tripping on me. Like I did a fucking field sobriety test, and they were totally being dicks about it. Like I passed the test, and then they're like, oh, let's do the breathalyzer. I'm not gonna do the breathalyzer. For what? You don't have any probable cause. I'm not intoxicated. I told you that I drank, but that was 3 hours ago. I was like, I'm driving fine. You couldn't even tell me what I got pulled over for. You're not going to give me a ticket. They were just doing all this weird shit. And so, yeah, like he ended up being like, oh, well, just do the breathalyzer. No matter what you blow, like we'll let you go. But we're in training. I'm like, I'm not gonna be a guinea pig for your rookie. Like I'm not doing that, dude. I know my rights. I didn't have to comply to the field sobriety, but I did it out of respect. And he's like, oh, okay, whatever. He let me go. So I told Taylor all this, and our next door neighbor used to be a cop. And he's like, oh man, they were trying to get you on something. And I was like, I fucked up because, when they had asked me, they're like, did you drink tonight? I should have said no. But it was 3 hours ago. I didn't think anything of it. But I was like, yeah, I had a beer like 3 hours ago. And yeah, that's kind of where I fucked up at. But yeah, so that happened. But she was literally on her way to go looking for me. Camry was at the house. And she was just, when I pulled up, she was outside with the neighbor, and Camry was out there about to go in their house because she was about to go looking for me because she was scared that I'd gotten in an accident. And so, but yeah, man, that's a whole nother story. But yeah, it was about 3 years, man, after that. And my friends didn't really care. They didn't really say anything to make me feel a certain way. I think and I mean, I like to say I'm pretty respected amongst my groups of friends, especially I've always kind of been that way. And I kind of do my own thing. I don't really search for anything, and they kind of know that.
I think a lot of people can tell too. I mean, at least in my experience, a lot of people can tell when it's kind of time.
Yeah.
And
they still do it. They still part like a motherfucker, but I'm just like, they don't call, they don't text, they don't invite me, because they know. Like I'm going to tell you no. I'm going to say no. Like I'm not that person anymore. I can't justify going out with my homies. Like I can maybe one night or whatever if it's a planned thing once, twice a year. But I'd rather be with my wife. I'd rather be with my kids. I'd rather go do shit with them. We got other goals now that we're looking to achieve, and those things are way more important to me just going to get plastered for a weekend.
You say you had some fun times with the uncles and your father-in-law and stuff, going to the beer fest and stuff. Yeah. But, I think that does hit a little bit different because it's just, you know,
You're also
she's
building a relationship with your
yeah.
with your
Yeah,
family.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
You're building something with them. I mean, that's something I never had the opportunity to do, more for work purposes than anything, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's good. I mean, I've had other opportunities to build and help and be along, but no, I was just with everything we talked about last week. I'd been really thinking about it and trying to, and I thought that would be a good one.
That is a good one. Yeah, there's a lot to it, but just from that period of stand, yeah, that's definitely a a much clearer view of kind of what we went through during that situation and the amount of growth that I had to go through to be able to be a better person, a better husband, a better father, and an overall better human being. You know, it almost cost me a lot just because I didn't want to grow up and acknowledge the faults and the issues that I had. It almost cost me what I have today and in a person that truly loves me to my core, through the goods and the bad. And I tell that shit all the time. Like, girl, you met me when I was at my lowest. We met each other when we were pretty damn at our lowest, like the both of us. And to see where we're at and where we're gonna go, I tell all the time, like, you know, I need somebody strong behind me, and you are that person. And but yeah, man, it just goes to show you, you know, you just sometimes you just gotta own up to your bullshit, own up to your lies,
Lean into the fear.
yeah, the shit that you're lying to yourself, saying that, you know, you don't need that, you do, you know, you're fine. You gotta lean into that shit and say, nah, like, I could be better. I can be a better husband, whatever it might be. It can be better for yourself. Um, but ultimately, yeah, like, you just gotta lean into that shit and really, really dig in and say, like, I'm gonna fucking change and I'm gonna do it. There's no in it. There's no other way. It's like this, right? Like we didn't start it just to half-ass it. We started it to take it all the way. And I think we take that approach of like, we're either gonna fucking fail miserably and fall on our face, but we're gonna get back up. And I was willing to fail miserably at our marriage. I was willing to look like an idiot by saying the wrong things sometimes, but I was also willing to accept the feedback from her and say, like, hey, like, you know, I don't like the way you communicated that. Can you communicate that differently? I was okay to have those confrontations and those conversations because I was willing to put myself out there.
They've helped you a lot. I mean, I got to know your wife more as we got to know each other more. You know, as the health journeys came to a little
Yeah.
bit of a
Merger.
merge. Yeah, I was trying to think. My collision's not the right word, but I mean, from everything I can see, she is a very strong. I mean, and I've seen a little bit more of what she went through before you, and yeah, it takes a strong person to continue. So I give your wife very, very high props
Yeah.
for that. That's not even a good word for it, but you know, she's been through a lot, and you know,
Yeah.
I just seeing the growth has been awesome from the times that we've gotten closer and closer, and the growth, and
Yeah, she's amazing, man. She really is. Our wives are incredible. But
they are.
Yeah, my wife is she's my rock, and I can't wait for people to hear the whole story. I know she won't share everything, but she'll share at least some deep level stuff because she loves deep conversations. But if people really knew, like, yeah, they'd be like, "What the fuck?" You know, it's a crazy story. But
I was gonna
yeah,
say after reading some things I read this week, I would love to have this same conversation with her, to hear her side.
oh yeah,
And
oh yeah, to see her perspective on it.
yeah,
Oh,
to
for
see her
sure.
perspective, and I know you
For
know
sure.
what I'm talking about here,
For sure.
but to hear that perspective, to more understand the other side of the coin
For sure.
in this point,
For sure.
you know.
That'd be great. Yeah, I think
So
that's definitely something we got to do. And yeah, man, I yeah, attribute it all to her and her strength and giving me the capacity and the lane to be able to work through those things in my emotional immaturity, and it's worked out. You know, we continuously grow every single day, and communication is, like I said, not like where it wants to be, but I think as long as we're striving to be better, it keeps a relationship in a good place. So
I mean, it's like, yeah, I mean, it's like everybody uses the phrase "perfection is key." There's no, or practice makes perfect. I mean, perfection's not something. I mean, as long as you're striving to get better every single day, if once you hit, in my opinion, once you hit that level of, oh, we have the perfect communication, you have nothing.
Taylor's favorite quote is, "Perfection is the lowest standard you can have because you'll never achieve it."
Yeah,
she loves that, and I'm like, that's fucking true.
Yeah.
100%. So.
No, I agree.
Yeah, man, that's the gist of it. You know, pretty deep level stuff. You know, something that I really haven't shared with anybody outside of our marriage. But I think it's important. You know, I think I'm open. Like I take all the flaws now with what I've done and own up to the mistakes, and I take them as a learning experience. So hopefully people can learn from those situations and not do the same shit, and know that if you're going through something similar in your relationship or you need to have that conversation, I think you can avoid a lot of pain in the front. You'll still go through some pains, but at least cut it shorter than it needed to be. Because if we would have had that conversation before that, I think I would have been ready for it. I just probably didn't have to go through her talent. I wish I could take back the pain. That's really what it is.
Yeah,
but I know without that, it would have been. It might have not ever changed. So who knows?
I was gonna say I don't. I think you could. I think that's about the only thing, because unfortunately, it's very possible that she could have told you that 6 months earlier and it wouldn't have made a difference.
Yeah.
I think you hit a point in your life where you knew something needed to change. You just didn't know.
Didn't know what,
I mean, you have to give yourself a lot of props for taking the accountability, though. You have to give yourself a lot of credit for taking the accountability, because you very well could have just gotten pissed off and done your normal, but you took accountability for yourself. So
Yeah.
from you sharing that to me, like, I'm proud of you for taking that
appreciate
accountability,
that.
because that's a huge step. And if you hadn't done it, me and you wouldn't be sitting here.
No, for sure not. I
So,
appreciate it. Yeah. No, man,
guys,
thanks.
There's not really a challenge to this. I mean, shit, I just take what you can from this and learn. I mean, try to dig into yourself. I guess that is somewhat of a challenge.
Yeah.
You know, really dig into yourself. If you're in a hard spot, really look yourself in the mirror.
Yeah.
I mean, you can avoid a lot of
I agree.
problems doing some things.
Just
So,
look into the mirror. Yeah, I agree with that. Like, really take a look inwardly to see what you can do better. And I think the moment you start pointing the finger out at others and just look internally, I think your perspective and your way that you look at certain things in your life can definitely change. So
well, I appreciate it, man.
appreciate it, dude.
Thank you for going along with my late night antic tonight. You know, it's been sitting on me, and I just wanted to get it out. I have no clue how I'm going to feel the next few days, so I just wanted to
Well, I appreciate you coming through, man. I know
get it in, and
it's late, and you know, it's a late notice type of deal, but I'm glad that we kept the consistency, kept it going, and it worked out. So yeah, man, I appreciate you coming through.
Thank you, guys. We love you. We'll
Thanks,
see you
guys.
next time.